Welcome to another edition of Hisco World. Here we'll be discussing about every completed signing in the Premier League this season. We'll be running through all the completed signing from every team and see how each team is well prepared for the season. We'll actually be looking at it since we have 2 weeks from the Premier League kicking off. Now, let's see how each team is well prepared. Before we actually move forward, I would like you to like this video, share, and I want your comment because you are the judge. I want you to tell me if your team is actually well prepared for the season. Now let's look at all the completed signing Arsenal have done throughout this transfer season. Arsenal have actually done 3 signings. They've signed Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, and Julian Timber. Let's see if actually these 3 players can actually be fully integrated into the team to see if it can make Arsenal become the EPL winner this season since they finished second last season. Let's see if we can push them one step in the table log. We looked at Aston Villa. Aston Villa have done 3 signings. They've signed Moussa Diaby, Pau Torres, a fantastic defender from Villarreal, Yuri Telemans, another beautiful midfielder from Leicester that was relegated. Now let's see if actually it can help Unai Emery to go further in the table log. Now let's talk about Bournemouth. Bournemouth have done 5 signings. They just gained promotion. Let's see if actually these 5 signings and home up as the season still goes, because we have till September 1st before the season is going to run out, if it will help them to sustain their place in the Premier League. Now they've signed Ahmad Junior Traore, Milos Kakez, Roman Tarev, Justin Kluivert, and Andre Radu. Now these are actually the signings that Arsenal Bournemouth has actually made in the course of this season. Now let's talk about Brentford. Brentford have signed Nathan Collins, Kevin Schade, Mark. Now let's see if those signings can actually help them in the table log. Now let's talk about Brighton. Now Brighton has done 6 signings. Let's see if actually it can help them, since this season is going to be more tedious than that of last season because they have Europe competition to contend for and the Premier League and other cup titles. Let's see if actually they themselves can sustain their place in the table, and also see how far they can go in the European competition. Now they've signed João Pedro, fantastic striker. They've signed Bart Van Bruggen, Igor, Andrin Mazilu, Mahmoud Dahoud, and James Mina. I think James Mina is going to help them with respect to experienced in their team, because the team was actually filled with a lot of young lads. Let's see if actually the experience of James Mina in Europe competition can actually help them go far in the Conference League. We'll see as the season is about to kick off. Now let's talk about Burnley. This is actually one team that surprised a lot of persons last season. They actually breaks a lot of records which in the championship. They were able to be one of the teams that gained promotion into the Premier League with almost about 7 games left. Now let's see if actually they can transform that form into the Premier League and see how far it will actually go. The league is just 2 weeks from now. Now Burnley, they've done quite a lot of signings. The one good part of it is that they were able to do all the signings before the season started, so that these signings they can actually blend them in the course of the preseason. Now Burnley, they've signed 9 players. They've signed Zeki Madu, James Strasford, Jordan Bayer, Daryl Hushel, Michael Obafemi, a very fantastic striker, Luka Kuleshu, Nathan Raymond, Lawrence Vigoros, I'm sorry if I murdered that name, Jacob Brun-Larsen. Now these are all the signings that Burnley have done in the course of this season. Let's see if actually they can do more add-on, since the season the window still take till 1st of September before it will actually shut. Now let's talk about Chelsea. Now Chelsea is actually in a very tricky position because last season they finished 12th in the table, and I don't think they will actually want that scene to repeat itself this season. They did a lot of mass exodus from the team, and they've been able to sign 4 players as of now. They've signed Christopher Nkunku, Nicholas Jackson, and Angelo Gabriel, and Diego Moreira. Now, these are all young players that Pochettino have signed. Let's see if he can work his magic like he did in Spurs. I think Chelsea doesn't want to be a team that just qualify for Euro competition. If you hear his comment in his interview, he said he wants to win. Now, let's see if actually he can be able to use this team to win in the course of the season. About Crystal Palace. This is actually a tricky team. Last season, they didn't actually do well. They have to go and re-employ Roy Hodgson, who performed his magic that helped them to scale relegation. Now they've signed only one player, Jefferson Lema. That's the player they've signed this season, and I don't sure that with this one player it can help them to retain their place in the EPL. So let's see what goes on as the season progresses. Now let's talk about Everton. This is one team that escaped relegation on the last day of the EPL. Now they've been able to do 2 signings. Now I don't think if actually these 2 signings can actually help them, though they have an experienced manager who is actually good in bringing team away from relegation. Now let's see what he can do. Now they've signed Arnaud Danjuma and Ashley Young, which will actually help to put in some experience in that team. Now let's talk about Fulham. Fulham actually did well last season, but this season they've been having issues in their with respect to their manager. Let's see what's going to happen, although there's actually a very high tendency that he's going to stay. Now Fulham has been able to sign Julio Raul Jimenez. Now let's see what they can do in the course of this season. Now let's talk about Liverpool. Liverpool, every section in their team is well blended except the midfield, and I think that Jurgen Klopp did a fantastic job with respect to that midfield. He has brought to midfielder in the presence of Dominic Sosbola and Alexis McAllister. These people are actually going to inject some form of youthfulness in that team, and you know how Jurgen Klopp likes using his team. He wants a lot of doggedness in his team. So let's see if actually it can help them in the course of this season. Now let's talk about Luton Town. They just gained promotion into the EPL. Now let's see how they are going to perform in the course of this season. Now Luton has made 4 signings. They've signed Tahith Chong, Matt Henderson, Chidozie Ogbene, Issa Kabore. Now these are the 4 signings that Lutons have done this season. I think that they still need more ejection into that team so that they can be able to withstand the pressure that comes with EPL. Now let's talk about Manchester City. Now this is a team that won the treble last season, and indeed one thing that is more difficult is ability to retain that title, and I don't think any other team has actually done it. Now let's see how Man City is actually going to do this time around. They've been able to bring only one signing in the person of Mateo Kovacic. Now let's see what he can do with regards to that team. Now let's talk about Manchester United. Now they have the Euro competition to contend with as long as the EPL and other cup titles. Now let's see what they can do. They've done 3 fantastic signings. According to the manager, you Manchester United fans, be the judge. I want to see your comment to see if actually your team is well prepared. They've signed Mason Mount, they've signed Andre Onana and Johnny Evans. Now Evans is actually going to help them with respect to experience. Now let's see how it goes with Manchester United. Now let's talk about Newcastle. They just gained, they qualified for Euro competition last season. Now let's see what they can do in the course of this season. They've made 3 signings in the persons of Now let's talk about Sandro Tonali. They've also signed Harvey Vince, a nice winger, Yakuba Mintek. I'm sorry if I murdered that name. Now these are the signings that Newcastle have done. Tonali is actually one player we need to watch as the season unfolds. I've been able to see some clips of him in the course of the preseason friendlies. Now let's talk about Nottingham Forest. Now they have made about 3 signings. Anthony Elanga from Manchester United, Chris Wood and Ola Aina. Now these are 3 signings that Newcastle have, Nottingham Forest has made. Now let's see how far they can go this season. Or it's going to be like last season that they were just moving within the range of the drop zone. I believe that they will not want the same thing to repeat itself this season, but it is actually their preparation that will determine how it's going to unfold. Nottingham Forest fans, I want you to leave your comment to see if actually you are well pleased with the signing you've done thus far. Now let's talk about Sheffield United. They also gained promotion into the EPL. Now they've done 4 signings. They've signed Benny Traore, Anis Slimani, Yesa Larouci, Edda Stevens. Now, these are the signings that Sheffield have done. I think Sheffield doesn't want to go back to the relegation again because it's very easy. They can understand that it's very difficult coming from the Championship down to the Premier League. So now they've been able to come back to the Premier League. I think they want to maintain their status in the Premier League, but it is their preparation that will determine how far they can go. Now let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur. Now they've made 4 signings. They've signed James Maddison, a nice midfielder, Pedro Porro, Guillermo Vicario, and Manon Solomon. These are the signings that Tottenham has done. Now let's see what they can do in the course of the season. They missed out from every Europe competition last season, and I think they will actually want to gain their step back to Europe competition because of the financial power that it can actually help inject into the team. But let's see when the season fully unfolds. West Ham, they've not made any signings and they've sold their skipper. I don't know how they're going to replace him, but there's some rumors that they're actually going for Chelsea Hudson-Odoi. Let's see if actually that signing can pull through. Now let's talk about the last one, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now they've done 4 signings: Matheus Cunha, Babacar Traore, I'm sorry if I murdered that name, Tom Kings, and Matt Doherty. Now these are the signings that Wolverhampton have done in the course of this season. Now let's see how far they can be able to go in the course of this season. Their coach did a fantastic job towards the last end of the previous season. I think he will actually want to maintain the same pace in the course of this season. So these are the various signings that indeed all the 20 Premier League teams have done thus far. I want to hear your comment at the end of the video to tell me if actually your team you think is actually win the Premier League. Come on, let's go.